Welcome to episode 2, Faith at Home, Parenting Patterns That Keep Kids Catholic. When parents ask, Amber, why do kids leave the faith? My first answer might surprise them. It isn't usually about the youth minister. It's not about the Catholic school. It isn't even about homilies, although yes, those do matter. The research is clear. The single strongest predictor of whether faith lasts isn't in the parish office. It's found around the dinner table. Studies like the National Study of Youth and Religion and Bengston's 3-generation family research converge on this. Faith is most likely to stick when it is lived at home with warmth, consistency, and authenticity. And the opposite is true too. When kids see a gap between what a parent preaches and what they actually live, when family life feels harsh or hypocritical, when Mass and prayer are optional extras rather than a family's heartbeat, then faith becomes fragile. And that's sobering, but it's also empowering, because what it means is that you matter more than you think. Here is what the data tells us. In that National Study of Youth and Religion, Christian Smith and Melinda Denton found that the single most important influence on a young person's religious life isn't the religious life of the parents. It's not the parish program. It's not the Catholic school, and it's not even peer groups. Decades of research from the Families and Faith Study, which followed families across 3 generations, found the exact same thing. The kids most likely to keep their faith weren't raised in homes that were perfect, but in homes that were warm, consistent, and authentic. Now, here's what the church has been saying all along. Remember, the Catechism is clear that the parents are the first heralds of faith. The home is called the domestic church. It also says that parents bear witness to their children by creating a home where tenderness, forgiveness, respect, fidelity, and service are the rule. That's straight from the Catechism, and that's before all the research confirmed it. Notice what the Catechism highlights: tenderness, forgiveness, respect, not perfection, not flawless theology lectures, a home where love is lived out. And here's something that struck me as a mom and as a therapist. In psychology, we know that when parents are harsh, inconsistent, emotionally distant, emotionally immature, kids often develop what's called an insecure attachment. And research shows that insecurely attached kids are more likely to imagine God as distant, harsh, or untrustworthy. If you want more information about attachment, check out the videos on the screen now. But when kids grow up in homes that are emotionally warm and secure, homes where forgiveness is practiced, questions are welcomed, and faith is woven into daily life, they are far more likely to imagine God as loving and trustworthy. So the way that you love, forgive, and show up at home isn't just shaping your child's self-esteem. It's shaping how they see God. So what are the patterns in the home that tend to push kids away from their faith, even if unintentionally? First, saying one thing and then doing another. Kids are hypersensitive to hypocrisy. If they hear us talk about forgiveness, but then watch us hold grudges, if they hear us preach about honesty, but they see us bending the truth when it's convenient, they internalize the message that faith isn't real, it's just words. And research confirms this. Children are more likely to stay if they see faith lived authentically, even imperfectly. Second, outsourcing faith entirely to schools and parishes. Catholic education and youth ministry are wonderful gifts, but when faith is compartmentalized to a classroom or to a church without reinforcements at home, kids learn that religion is just another subject like math or soccer. And the Catechism reminds us that the education in the faith by the parents should begin in the child's earliest years. Third, harshness without warmth. Decades of developmental research shows that authoritarian parenting with strict rules and little warmth often backfires. Children may comply for a while, usually based on fear, but they rarely internalize or morals. It feels imposed and not chosen. But by contrast, authoritative parenting, clear expectations with warmth, fosters moral and religious continuity. The Catechism calls us to raise children with kindness, firmness, and goodness. Fourth, avoiding hard conversations. Parents freeze when kids ask questions about suffering, sexuality, or silence. But silence communicates that the church has nothing to say, or worse, that the questions themselves are bad. Yet our faith has 2,000 years of tradition. Questions are not a threat, they're an opening. If these questions make you break out in a sweat, then just hang on, because in a few episodes, we'll do an entire video about those questions, the most asked, the most difficult to answer, and I'll give you some tips and tricks. Fifth, overscheduling and busyness. When Mass and prayer consistently lose out to sports, rehearsals, activities, kids absorb this quiet message. Faith is optional and everything else is urgent. The church gives us the gift of Sunday rest, not as a burden, but as a weekly reminder that God comes first. Now, I know hearing that list can sting. I've been guilty of some of these myself. Every parent has. But here's the hope. If these patterns can weaken faith, then the opposite patterns, authenticity, warmth, dialogue, consistency, and Sabbath priorities, can strengthen it. It's the roadmap. So if those are patterns that make faith fragile, then let's look at what makes faith strong. First, authentic modeling. Research shows that the most powerful predictor of a child's faith is simply seeing their parents live it sincerely. That doesn't mean flawlessly, it means real, seeing the struggle. Let them catch you praying. Let them see you going to confession. Let them notice the faith that changes the way that you speak or forgive or make decisions. Let them see the struggle, too, in age-appropriate ways. Remember that the Catechism says it clearly. Parents bear witness to their children by creating a home where tenderness, forgiveness, respect, fidelity, and service. Second, warmth with limits. Remember that psychologists call this authoritative parenting, love, and structure. Faith feels safe when children know the boundaries, but also know that they're loved within them. Yes, Sunday Mass is non-negotiable, but I will sit with you in the pew and answer the questions that you have after. Rules become rooted in relationship. Third, repair after rupture. Every family fights. What matters most is what happens afterward. Sue Johnson's attachment research shows that secure bonds are built when ruptures are acknowledged and repaired, not ignored. A simple, "I was harsh earlier, I'm sorry, will you forgive me?" is one of the most powerful catechisms a child can ever hear, especially when parents have not lived marriage rightly in a way that their children have witnessed. It can be helpful at age-appropriate ways to say, "I shouldn't have spoke to Daddy that way. I'm sorry to him, and I'm sorry you had to see that. That is not how God is calling me to be a wife in marriage. I'll work harder." This is where we have to be honest and remember that offering it up or pushing things under a rug is not always the best way to respond to difficulties. Of course, it's important to not speak negatively about your spouse to your children, but we can say of ourselves where we should have done better. It does not serve children to pretend that disagreements that were handled in an unhealthy way simply didn't exist. It can be very confusing. Kindness, gentleness, but authenticity and truth are all very important. When we ask for forgiveness from our family, it mirrors the sacrament of confession, but right inside of the family. Number 4, shared rituals. Children learn through rhythms and repetition. Grace before meals, a candle on feast days, a blessing at bedtime, weekly Mass, even on vacations. These aren't small things, they're anchors. The church calls the family the domestic church for a reason. These little rituals preach louder than lectures. Number 5, welcoming questions. When children ask hard questions, why does God allow suffering? Or why is the church so strict about sex? Lean in, not away. Even if you don't know the answer, you can always say, that is a great question. Let's look into it together. Let me find out and get back with you. The difference between a silenced doubt and a welcomed question can be the difference between drifting away and staying rooted. So here's the encouragement. You don't need to overhaul your entire parenting style. Start small. Add one ritual. Repair one rupture. Answer one question with honesty. Live one more moment of visible faith. These little things accumulate and they form what researchers call sticky faith. So here's the big picture. Faith doesn't rise or fall on whether your parish has a perfect youth group or whether your child goes to the right school. The research is clear. The church has always been saying it all along. The most powerful influence in your child's faith is you and their relationship with you. Not about being perfect, not you never making mistakes, you being real, present, prayerful, and quick to repair when you fall short. When you model authentic faith, when you balance warm and clear boundaries, you build small rituals into daily life. And when you welcome hard questions instead of running from them, you're showing your child that Catholicism is not just a set of rules, but a living relationship with Christ. And if you're thinking, Amber, I've already blown it, my kids are drifting, I can't undo the past, hear this. God is bigger than any of our mistakes. Remember St. Monica. Remember that grace builds upon nature. And remember this line from Philippians 1:6. He who has began a good work in you will bring it to its completion. So don't panic. Repair is always possible. Just start again today with one small step. What's the next right decision? That is how faith becomes sticky. In our next episode, we'll get even more practical. We'll walk through a stage-by-stage playbook and focus on early childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, because the questions and needs of your 7-year-old are very different from your 16-year-old or your college student. And when we parent with those developmental stages in mind, we stop fighting uphill battles and start planting faith in ways that can actually take root. You're not alone in this, and God will multiply even your smallest efforts. Before we wrap up, I want to say something from my heart. We are happy to give away these episodes for free. The mission of the Catholic Counseling Institute is to make Catholic psychology authentic, affordable, and accessible. We want families everywhere to have access to research and faith-based, practical tools that can make a real difference at home. But you go further, we have also created a companion survival guide for parents. In it, there's a recap, micro habits, sample parent-child scripts, reflection pages and saint stories, ways to expand and make this practical. You will see on your screen right now everything that is offered in the survival guide episode, and you can find a link to the downloadable PDF in the description. It's less than the cost of a couple cups of coffee, but it helps keep the lights on and the editors editing. I'll see you next time.